Well, hey there. Welcome to the Lean Lifestyle Podcast, where we talk all the things about losing fat and building muscle in your 40s and beyond. This is your host, Courtney Witten, certified personal trainer and health coach and owner of C Fitness. Today, we are talking about making progress towards your weight loss goals in just 5 minutes a day. And this is without exercising more or giving up your favorite foods. Yes, it's absolutely possible. So stick around. You are not going to want to miss this. If you're a woman over the age of 40 who is struggling with weight loss, even though you eat healthy or you work out on a consistent basis, stick around because you're definitely going to want to hear this today. And if you've noticed an increase in fat mass, especially around the midsection, and this is generally without any change to your nutrition or exercise, then this is the episode for you. And finally, if the things that used to work for you, such as exercising more, cutting calories more, or doing more cardio, just isn't cutting it for you anymore, then you're definitely going to want to hear this episode. If you're experiencing any of these symptoms, you may be experiencing some perimenopausal weight loss resistance. So, perimenopause, which is the onset of menopause, this generally will start anywhere from late 30s to somewhere in a woman's 40s. And this time period, perimenopause can actually last anywhere from 2 to up to 10 years. And this time can make it difficult for women to lose weight and keep it off. Now, it's definitely not impossible. So please don't turn off this episode yet because you're definitely going to want to stick around because it is possible for sustainable weight loss to happen. Here's one of the reasons why it's difficult to lose weight and keep it off in perimenopause, and that is low calorie diets. So by now, a lot of us have had a huge diet history. Maybe we've tried tons of different diets, and over time, if we are restricting calories on a consistent basis for long periods of time, then we can experience what is called metabolic adaptation. So, meaning your body will learn how to survive off of less calories. So, in return, your body will start to burn less calories. Your RMR, your resting metabolic rate, will slightly decrease. And in addition, generally, you will unconsciously move less. So, this combination of a slightly lower resting metabolic rate, along with a decrease in calorie expenditure and a decrease in movement, will make it difficult to lose weight because we have to have a calorie deficit. So, this is when you want to lose weight, you need to create a calorie deficit by eating less calories than your body needs. So, this can make it really difficult in order to lose weight. And not to mention, there's other factors here that make weight loss difficult in perimenopause, such as loss of lean muscle mass. So, if we are not proactive with building muscle, so if we're not lifting weights consistently, and I'm talking heavy weights, progressing those lifts over time, then it's really difficult to keep lean muscle mass on us. And that is what's going to help us look better. In addition to, it is going to help your metabolism slightly. You are going to burn slightly more calories whenever you have more lean muscle tissue on you. In addition, it's very, very common in as we get older that we move less. Even just like being active throughout the day, that is a huge part of your calorie expenditure. It takes up actually around 30% of your daily calorie expenditure, just daily movement. So a lot of women just aren't quite getting enough movement. So all of these factors can make it really difficult to lose weight. So going back to the perimenopausal weight loss resistance symptoms. So we talked just a few minutes ago about struggling with weight loss, even though you're eating healthy or you're exercising on a consistent basis. Maybe you're experiencing an increase in fat gain, even though you haven't changed anything with your diet or your exercise. And the things that used to work for you just aren't working for you anymore. So here's the thing. What a lot of women do in order to fix these issues is doing things like exercising more or doing more cardio, starting yet another diet, a detox or a cleanse, cutting out your favorite foods or cutting out entire food groups, or doing things such as trying to eat healthier or eat clean. And unfortunately, these things just don't work, at least not for long, anyways, and can actually make weight loss more difficult. But I do want to say here that the good news is that yes, you can get past the weight loss plateau, and you can also do it without starving yourself or without exercising like a maniac. And really, it's going to come down to fixing these three common but not so obvious mistakes that I see women make when it comes to sustainable weight loss. So we're going to go ahead and dive on in. All right. So, number one, the first mistake that I see women make when it comes to sustainable weight loss is using exercise as a way to burn calories. Okay, did you know that structured exercise only accounts for about 10% of your overall daily calorie expenditure? Yes. All right. So let's break down how the metabolism works. Okay. So about 50 to 60% of your daily calorie expenditure is coming from your resting metabolic rate. So this is the amount of calories that your body needs just to carry out essential functions. So this is stuff like breathing, thinking, that type of thing. So if you're laying in bed, this is the amount of calories that your body would need in order to stay alive. Okay, so that counts for about 50 to 60% of your overall daily calorie expenditure. Then we have NEAT. So we talked about this just a second ago. So NEAT, or you can call it non-exercise movement. It's just a fancy word for anything that is not structured exercise. So this would be things like cooking dinner, walking to the mailbox, standing while you're on the phone, that type of thing. Okay, so all of those. So basically, activities of daily living is what we're talking about here. This actually takes up around 30% of your daily calorie expenditure. Then we have TEF, or TEF, the thermic effective food. This is digesting food. This takes up around 5%, maybe 10%, 5 to 10% of your daily calorie expenditure. So that leaves only about 10% for structured exercise. So believe it or not, your structured exercise probably isn't making as big as an impact as you think. Here's the other issue. There's actually a couple issues. Let's go over that real quick. Here's the problem with using exercise as a way to burn calories or a way to lose weight. So, first of all, it takes a lot of cardio in order to burn stuff off. Now, this was something that I actually got into back in my 20s. I went through a period of time where I was going through some disordered eating and also some disordered exercise patterns. And a lot of that was using cardio like the next day after I overindulge in chocolate or ice cream. So we don't want to do that because this was something that kept escalating over time. And before I knew it, it was really out of control. And it took me years to get past this. And in fact, I still have the tendency to want to exercise too much. So I highly recommend, if you want to stay clear of disordered exercise behavior, which can spiral deeper and deeper and more obsessive over time, then I highly recommend that we don't use cardio or exercise as a way to burn calories. It's just not good on our mental state. The other issue here, and this was another problem that I ran into, is that doing a lot of exercise, particularly cardio, can speed up hunger and cravings. So, meaning a lot of times, and I see this a lot with clients, is they come to me from a past very similar to mine, using exercise as a way to burn calories. And I totally understand because, it is difficult to make changes to your nutrition, but the problem is when you're relying on it solely, it can increase your hunger. So you might end up unintentionally overeating. So this can cause a lot of frustration. And again, this really does make it even more difficult because then you're in this position of a cycle of overeating and then over exercising, and it just goes on and on and on. And over time, it just becomes a vicious cycle. So, those are the reasons why we don't want to use exercise as a way to burn calories or lose weight. Now, I will say that, yes, absolutely, it can help. And I do think that it can be used smartly. But if you are resistant to making any dietary changes, then you're probably going to spin your wheels and you are at risk for developing some disordered exercise behavior. And trust me, you do not want to go down that road. So there is ways that you guys can just gradually decrease calories if weight loss is your goal through nutrition. That really isn't going to be depriving or feel overwhelming. So stick around because we're going to be talking about that here in just a little bit. So we're going to move on to the second mistake that I see women make when it comes to sustainable weight loss, and that is trying quick fixes. So if you can't seem to stick to a diet or a plan for more than 2 to 3 weeks, then it's not going to be sustainable for you long term. And listen, ladies, it really is so important that we find something that's going to be sustainable, because here's the thing. I don't want you all continuously having to try to lose weight. We want to just lose the weight and be done with it, right? So we got to find a way of eating and a way of living that is going to work for you, that is sustainable, that you can keep up. This is so important for long-term weight maintenance. So here's the problem with the quick fixes. So when I'm talking about quick fixes, I'm talking about crash diets. So very low calorie diets. So the 1,000 to 1,200 calorie diets, the diets that are taking out whole food groups. And I'm especially talking about things that are like a 7-day detox or a 7-day cleanse or long periods of fasting. Here's the thing. Whenever we deprive ourselves, almost always what happens is overindulgence later. And this is what we want to avoid. We want to avoid these highs and lows in our nutrition, because it creates an all or nothing type mindset of being on the diet or off the diet. So when we're on the diet and then something happens, or we just get stressed out and we can't keep up this crazy diet, right? Because it's not sustainable, which will happen at some point if you're doing a quick fix, then what will happen is you'll go from deprivation to overindulgence. And what happens as a result is that we experience the feeling of guilt and then shame later. And then we end up beating ourselves up. And this also reinforces a belief that you can't change, that you can't lose weight, that weight loss isn't in the cards for you. Who am I to think that I can actually do this? So those are some of the self-defeating thoughts that I know I've experienced before, and also my clients. And this is a result of depriving followed by overindulging, which triggers the feeling of guilt and shame, which just reinforces that limiting belief that you're not able to change and lose weight. And then we end up starting the cycle all over again by depriving again, followed by binging later, and then followed by the guilt and shame, and then just reinforcing that belief. See, I knew I couldn't do it. So this is why this is a mistake, because if it's something that you can't be consistent with, if this is something that's not sustainable for you, you're just going to be stuck in this all or nothing type thinking. And it's going to cause a yo-yo effect more than likely with your weight. So until you can find something sustainable and until you stop falling for the quick fixes, then more than likely you're going to keep repeating the cycle. And that is one of the things that is keeping you stuck in perimenopausal weight loss resistance. All right, so the last mistake that I see women make when it comes to sustainable weight loss is eating healthy. Okay, you're probably like, what the hell, Courtney? All right, but let me explain here, okay? So this might blow your mind, but I see this all the time. Listen, eating healthy does not exactly mean weight loss, okay? So although quality of diet can help, and it can help a lot for things like muscle building and keeping cravings under control. Yes, absolutely. Quality does matter, and it does matter a lot. But at the end of the day, your body composition is going to be determined by quantity of diet, not quality. All right. I know. I'm sorry. It pisses me off too. I hate this so much. But we have numerous studies on this subject that weight loss requires a calorie deficit, so eating less calories than your body needs in order to lose weight. Now, I used to be a coach that was like, okay, eat clean, don't eat that, eat this, don't eat that. At the end of the day, I want to teach my clients autonomy. I love if it fits your macros mantra. Like, I absolutely love it because this provides flexibility in people's diets to where they can keep their favorite foods in their nutrition and still lose weight. So I used to be a big stickler for eating clean. And yes, I do think that it does make a difference. Again, it can make all the difference with how much muscle you build and how much muscle that you maintain. Like protein, like getting enough protein is very, very important. And also helping you with things like satiety, eating enough protein and making sure that you're not eating a lot of processed foods that can be game changing to how you feel. So it can actually help you decrease your appetite. It can also help you decrease cravings for highly palatable foods. So yes, quality does make a huge difference in how you feel. But here's the thing, we also need to keep in mind that quantity does matter as well. I'm going to use myself as an example here. I've talked about this on the podcast before, but I'm doing a bulk right now. I've been eating just slightly more than my body needs for about a year and a half now. And the reason why I did this was because of metabolic adaptation that we were talking about in the beginning of today's episode. So basically, I just dieted too long, and as a result, my metabolic rate slowed down a little bit. It was increasingly difficult over time to stay in a calorie deficit because my metabolic rate was declining and I wasn't moving as much. So my physical activity went down. And in addition, also, it was really hard for me to put on muscle mass. So I decided a year and a half ago to do a reverse diet. So gradually increasing my calories up. And now I'm eating just a little bit more than my body needs. Well, I've been doing that for about a year and a half now, and I'm about 20 pounds up from where I started. And literally, I eat the same things. For the most part, I'm eating roughly the same kind of foods as I did when I was 20 pounds lighter as I am now. So that just shows you that, and I've been tracking my calories the whole time. So it is to be expected that I've gained weight, but that just shows you that it is calories that is going to determine your body composition. Okay. So it's not necessarily like eating healthy or eating clean is going to help you lose weight. Yes, it can help you, but at the end of the day, it's going to come down to how many calories you're consuming. So yes, it's absolutely possible to gain weight even though you eat a very clean diet. Yes, absolutely. So keep that in mind if you are struggling with some perimenopausal weight loss resistance, that just because you eat a healthy diet doesn't necessarily mean it's going to help you lose weight. So this is where macro counting comes in. So you probably are familiar with calorie counting, but macro counting is calorie counting, but also with counting your carbs, protein, and fats that you're consuming. Because again, yes, quality of nutrition can be very helpful, especially with things like muscle building and feeling full and satiated. But we also want to be tracking our calories, especially if we're struggling with weight loss. So we can create a calorie deficit where we are eating slightly less than our body needs. So macro counting assures that you're giving your body the right amount of energy, and you can do this actually without a steep calorie deficit. So going back to the quick fixes, okay, there's really nothing wrong with doing calorie deficit, especially if you want to lose weight. It's a good way to, and really the only way for you to get to your weight loss goal is to create that calorie deficit. But I do want to say here that the big mistake here, going back to the quick fixes, is not the calorie deficit itself, but how steep it is. Okay. There is a lot of reasons for this, actually. So, one, we talked about metabolic adaptation, where metabolic rate starts to slow, and we want to avoid that, right? Because who wants a sluggish metabolism? Who wants to eat less and less and less as time goes on just to lose weight? The other reason why you don't need a steep calorie deficit is because we want to preserve as much muscle as possible. Okay. This is so important because having muscle tone really does make a difference in your physique and how you look. So what we want to do is avoid these steep calorie deficits, because if you are restricting your calories like a lot, then you're probably going to lose muscle mass along with fat mass. And finally, we can totally avoid metabolic adaptation by doing a step down approach with our calorie deficit. So here's something. Now listen up, because this is going to change everything for you when you go into your next dieting phase or fat loss phase. So I highly suggest Do not start a fat loss phase or weight loss phase from the get-go eating 1,200 calories a day or slashing like 500 calories from what you're eating. Okay, first you're going to notice that. Like, that's pretty much a whole meal. If you're cutting out 500 calories from the get-go, you're probably going to notice that. You're probably going to feel hungry, and all it's going to take is a crap day for you to say F this. The other thing here is that we want to gradually step down because of metabolic adaptation. So what we want to do is, beginning a fat loss phase, we start with a 10% calorie deficit. You do that for like a month, or really until you stop seeing results off that. So, and hey, by the way, good results are like half a pound to a pound a week, depending on how much weight you have to lose. Once you stop losing weight, once you hit like a little plateau, then you increase that calorie deficit from 10% to 15%. Okay. You do the same thing. And then once you stop seeing results, maybe you can go to like 20. I would not do anything over 25%. I would say 25% is the most I would ever suggest someone doing for a calorie deficit. Generally, I would like to see that end more around the 20% range. But by doing this gradually, you're going to be able to decrease the likelihood of that metabolic adaptation happening, because you're going to be continuing to drop your calories. So as soon as your body gets used to that, you're going to be able to drop your calories a little bit more, versus if you cut a lot of calories from the get-go, it's going to be really difficult to go from like 1,200 calories to like 1,100 calories and so on. So if you start your calories higher at the beginning of a fat loss phase and you just do a modest calorie deficit, and then you increase that calorie deficit as time goes on, as you plateau, then you're more than likely not going to run into that issue. So I do want to point that out. This is why macro counting can be really, really helpful. Within 28 days, you're going to be able to track your food in just 5 minutes a day. Okay. And especially if you sign up for my Women's 28-Day Macro Counting Challenge, which walks you through step by step how to start accurately tracking your calories and macros so you can reach and keep your body composition goals. Again, macro counting can help you create a modest calorie deficit that's required for weight loss. It can help you stop spending hours in the gym. No more sweating it out. You can be strategic by cutting just a little bit of calories out of your nutrition, and you're going to be able to get more results that way. And you're also going to be able to enjoy your favorite foods as you lose weight. Okay, so here's everything that you get when you join the Women's 28-Day Macro Counting Challenge. So you get the goal setting and tracking worksheet, so that way you can get clear on what it is that you want to achieve and why that's important to you, which is so important to stay motivated along your weight loss journey. And also it has some tracking, so you can do things like write down your body fat percentage. You can take measurements, so that way you have a baseline of where you are, where you started, and that way you can track your progress at the end of the 28-day challenge. You'll also get my macro. You're also going to get my macro meal prep ideas guide. You're also going to get my macro-friendly meal prep guide, which has tons of ideas for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and salad dressings that you can prepare in just a few minutes. And it also comes with a meal prep video that walks you through some easy meals that you can throw together and prepare ahead of time. You'll also get my macro how-to guide that walks you through all the basics of how to get started with macro counting. So you're going to have your own little portal inside of my coaching and training app with the Women's 28-Day Macro Counting Challenge. But also 3 days after you sign up, you will get a daily email from me with just a little thing that you can implement each day. So that way you can make progress towards your goals and also get more efficient at macro counting. You're also going to get the stages of macro counting training with yours truly that walks you through what you should do after the diet, which is so important because there's so many people that don't teach this. So I walk you through exactly how long to diet for, what to do exactly after the diet so you don't lose all your progress and gain all the weight back. And of course, I want to make sure you're set up for success. So you're going to have access to the challenge success guide that walks you through step by step of how the macro challenge will work, plus tips and strategies that will help you make macro tracking super easy and less time consuming. And finally, you're also going to get, this is the best part, bonus here, a 15-minute onboarding call with me. So that way we can see where you are right now. I can help you set your goals and we can work as a team on how we are going to execute those goals. And not only that, for the 28 days, so the challenge starts 3 days after you sign up, you are going to get 28 days of private messaging with me, and that includes your own personalized macros. So I'm really excited to offer this for you guys. So this challenge is great for someone who is completely new to macros. This is actually especially good for people that have done macro counting before, but maybe they didn't get the result that they wanted, or maybe they felt that it was confusing or overwhelming and they just kind of got frustrated with it and quit. So if you feel like, hey, I've done this before and it didn't work for me, there's a reason why. And that's because a lot of times people don't really teach this. They're just like, track your food, and they don't really tell you exactly how to do that. Here's the thing, like with this macro counting challenge, you actually get like tutorials on how to track in MyFitnessPal. You also have the option to use the spreadsheets that come with the challenge that have a huge database of different foods. You can also actually use your own foods. So if you're more of a spreadsheet gal, then you can use that as well. But we walk you through step by step how to do all of this, how to track your macros. But not only that, like time-saving tips that you can use, such as creating meals and recipes, how to copy and paste, all the tips and tricks that you're going to need on your macro counting journey. So that way it just takes a few minutes of your day. So here's how you're going to get this special offer. So if you go through me, you can actually get it for just $129. You will get lifetime access to it. So all you need to do is send me an email, which I will link my email address into the show notes, but send me an email at cfitnessonlinetraining@gmail.com, and I will send you back my Fat Loss Secrets for Women guide. I love this guide so much. I just created it, and it has 3 things that you can do in order to lose fat and keep it off for good. And guess what one of the things is? Macro counting. But inside of that Fat Loss Secrets guide is a link that you will see to get the Women's Macro Counting Challenge for just $129 lifetime access, plus get a coaching call with me and private messaging with me for the 28-day challenge. All right, ladies, so that is it for today. So I will link my email. So just shoot me an email and I will send you that fat loss guide with a link to the sale price of the Women's 28-day macro counting challenge, which is originally $549. So you can save, what is that, like over $400. So send me an email if you're interested. I'll send you that guide with the link. And I will also link to my closed Facebook group, Lean Lifestyle. So same name as this podcast. We talk about all the things that we talk about on this podcast. So if you find this podcast helpful, make sure that you pop on over to Facebook and just answer a few questions for me when you request to join. Please answer the questions. I just do that as a screening to make sure that you're a woman and that you're an actual human. But other than that, we would love to have you in the group, do lots of fun stuff such as challenges in the group. We would love for you to be a part of our community. And one last thing, if you are enjoying this podcast, please share it with other women who need to hear my message. And please write me a 5-star review. Okay. I really do want to increase my reach and I want to help as many women as possible. So please do me a favor. If you're enjoying this podcast, if you find it valuable, please write me a 5-star review on whatever platform that you're using. I would really appreciate it. Whenever I get good reviews, it pushes my podcast out into the logarithm more, so more women who needs to hear this can find me. All right, ladies, that's all for today. I'm cheering you on, and bye for now.